part of me.
The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV. Due to the length of the preceding program, we now join the regularly scheduled program already in progress.
And I've lived in Grey Bruce my whole life. I didn't know a lot of this stuff as well. So it's not just new people coming to the community. It's a lot of people that just haven't really got the time to know their farmer neighbors. So we took advantage of this for the Open Fields event last year. It was a huge success. We had over 2,000 attendees visit these local farms, these local producers, and kind of get a behind the scenes look of what's going on in our backyard. So we were recognized last month or earlier this month by the Economic Developers Council of Ontario. We won the award for resiliency and economic development. And through this event, our plan was we want to get people interested in farming. We want people to support their neighbors in their backyard when they want to do something. And hey, yeah, it gets frustrating out there when you're going down the road and you're stuck behind some big farm equipment. But once you realize how important that is to the economy and how that tractor getting down the road means, because when they have those good days in the fall or in the spring to plant or to reap and harvest, they can't be wasting any time. So it's one of those things you got to thread the needle with. Yeah, you want convenience out there on these county roads and these municipal roads, but you gotta take a back seat to the farmers out there every now and then to really make sure they can get their job done and get the food on our tables.
Very important point, Allan, because you know, you may think your BMW was worth $75,000 or $100,000, but that tractor that you're behind is probably worth about $1 million.
Yeah, there's a lot of investment that goes into the agricultural community that a lot of people don't realize. So it was great having these guests get out there and they could ask the farmers these questions directly. They could say, oh yeah, what crops are best to plant on your field and how do you do it? And what made you decide all these things? So while we do have a lot of the apple growers in the area, we also have some cattle farmers, some dairy farmers, and we actually expanded out of the county as well, to the municipality, into Grey Highlands. And we visited their sheep farm, their Icelandic sheep farm over at Kimber Valley. So we're excited to announce that Open Fields will be coming back for 2024 and will be additional partnering with Grey Highlands once again. We want to expand that footprint, make sure people know all across the Beaver Valley how important agriculture is to our economy, and the county is going to be helping us out as well. So excited to have these municipal upper tier, lower tier partnerships, and everyone works together for the betterment of the community, because when people come up to the area, they don't see these boundaries, they don't see these town lines, and that's just the reality, and we all have to work together.
And certainly the agricultural community works together in that way as well. And this is an excellent model. It took a lot of partnership with our host farm communities, farms as well. And at first there were a lot of questions. You know, what does it? I don't. You know, some of the farm participants are used to having members of the public come to their farm. Others were, no, I'm opening my farm gate to let you come in and see what it is I do. And so what we really want to do is send the message out to the rest of Grey County that this is a model that works, and we can help, because we have figured out all those nuts and bolts. So if there are other municipalities and other farm organizations that would like to see this kind of tradition spread across the county, start with us first so that we can share what we've learned.
Well, town of Blue Mountains is not unknown for its pioneering spirit in municipal practices, but that's a whole other discussion. But I was going to ask you, what are the dates? What's the date for this coming up?
We don't have a firmed up date for this fall, but last year was on September 30th. So if it works well with the calendar again, likely the weekend before Thanksgiving seems to be a good time on the calendar. And of course, we were blessed with some pretty nice weather last year, and unfortunately, the harvest season is one of the busiest times of the year for the farmers. So we like to kind of work around their schedules. Once we confirm the participating locations, it'll be easier to nail down a date, but we'll be happy to share it once we have that confirmed.
Well, I'm just thinking it's the kind of event that while you may not want to make it countywide, that people in other parts of Grey County could attend simply for a daily drive. It's the kind of thing that while we wait for other municipalities to catch up with the town of Blue Mountains, you folks could expand it. But actually, I think it's a very useful and helpful thing to do. I live and work. I don't live, but I work in a rural community, and the Let's just say that the smell of fresh manure in the morning is not always appreciated.
And I think one of the nice things too is it gets people out into the rest of the Blue Mountains as well, because a lot of people they drive through, they see that Highway 26 corridor, they see Craigleith, they see Thornbury, but there's a lot more in the Blue Mountains to see. Obviously, Idaho Bay or Matrosovs is a big proponent of Duncan, but there's lots of great communities out there in the Blue Mountains. We are a community of communities, and it's a great way to get people out there and see parts of the community they might not get to otherwise.
We all, when we talk about the town of Blue Mountains, we're always talking about development. We're always talking about skiing. We're always talking about, like you say, the Highway 26 corridor. But there's a lot more of the town above the mountains and in back. And I think you make the whole Beaver Valley is something that is a gorgeous sight at any time of year. I don't know about you, but I thoroughly enjoy Grey Road 40 as you come, down the hill and you look across, and it's absolutely stunning views that way. I know that's your front yard, Andrea. But I was intrigued also to hear you talking about the apple growers. That's not, well, we know that the apple growers are certainly a very big important part. They actually opened their warehouses, and they talked about, because they're very sensitive about that kind things like biosecurity and making sure that there's no damage to their crops. It was good. Did they allow access as well?
They allowed for scheduled tours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were fantastic working with us, because part of their message is they want to get out to the community as well and show this is the technology we have. Like, they are top of the line, modern, state of the art fruit producing, fruit packaging, and we're excited. The Blue Mountain Fruit Company has said if things align and it's able to work out for them, they'd love to have people at tours at their factory as part of the open fields. And if you haven't seen inside of the Blue Mountain Fruit Company, it's quite a production that they have there. The AI they're using, the technology they're using, it's quite incredible what they're able to do these days. And who knew that apples were such technology went into them, but they're top of the line. I think across Canada, they might be one of the most advanced. So it's incredible to have that just in our backyard here.
Yes,
Well,
sorry. I was just going to say,
I'll put a plug in for Red Prince apples, which I know are a town of Blue Mountains product. I love them. They're great.
yes. Well, it's nice to have year-round selections like that. So, and you will, yes, once you go through one of those tours, you will never look at an apple on your kitchen table in the same way.
An apple a day keeps the doctor away, and makes the economic development people very happy. Great stuff. Well, let's move on a little bit to talk about International Women's Day. Andrea, that's your event. You are hosting, I understand.
Well, we do have a tradition here. The town of Blue Mountains works each year in partnership with our Blue Mountains Chamber of Commerce. So, and last year, for example, we were able to have a lunch and a presentation by Ukrainian women who had settled in Grey County. So that was quite phenomenal. And of course, our events are always open to anyone that wants to attend, but it is to celebrate successes of women in leadership and women in business and women in the community. And that's certainly what we're doing this year. So this year we have a different theme. It will be held over at Blue Mountain Resort, and it's about inclusion. And I will be moderating the event, but I also want to tip my hat to all the work that Allan and his department are putting in to make this a good event. It's not just going to be a panel discussion. There's going to be a night vendor market as well, and there will be other experiences to make sure that people have a chance to interact with each other, as well as learn from the leaders that we've picked for the panel, who are coming from community organizations as well as businesses. It's going to be a really good blend of perspective.
And the date?
That one is March 4th.
Okay.
And Allan, beginning at 7 o'clock, I believe.
5 to 7:30.
Sorry, 5 to 7:30. Got to keep all my events next week straight in my head. And you do need to purchase tickets, and you can do that at bluemountainschamber.ca. Blue Mountains Chamber of Commerce.ca. Have I got that right?
Well, it's always good to know those things, because, and I'm sure if Google is working with its AI, just Google International Women's Day Blue Mountains and boom, be there.
That's right. And half of the proceeds of the ticket sales are actually going to be to support my friend's house. So supporting women who need shelter.
Mm-hmm. Great. Great. It sounds like there's a lot of International Women's Day events, but this one's local and certainly of interest to people in anywhere across Grey County.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
And sorry, go ahead, Andrea.
There are, events happening for International Women's Day all through the week, so the nice thing is that if you want to catch something in Owen Sound, you could do that and still be able to make something over in the Blue Mountains. So it really is. And we certainly do celebrate it here because as I think we've discussed before, this is the first time in the history of the former Collingwood Township and the town of Thornbury and the town of Blue Mountains that we have more women than men on our council, for example. So, we are always front and center trying to think of how we can talk about that beyond that picture. And that's why I'm really excited that we have representatives coming who are providing leadership at community organizations, as well as hearing from some of our women entrepreneurs too, and what life is like for them and the contribution that they make to their community from a business perspective.
Will you be having any speakers on women in the political realm, Andrea?
So no, our focus is our community leadership members, and I'm just trying to think of. There's Tracy from Home Horizons who's going to be speaking. We have some representation of some of the local women who are in business here. That's not the complete list of panel speakers, but that's going to be our focus. Now, of course, I'll be sharing my remarks as well, and along the way as moderator. So part of that will be how another way to contribute to leadership in the community. Right,
because we are seeing huge changes. I noticed, for example, here in Owen Sound that there are now 3 women leading the 3 top committees in
excellent.
And quite remarkable. And of course, we have people like Mayor Chow in Toronto, who is kind of blazing a new path, if I can say that. One of the things that I have learned is that it's always worth watching the Toronto news just to figure out and to see just what Mayor Chow is up to, because you never know. You just never know. But of course, talking about politics and re-election is very premature because we're still 2 years out, almost 3, from the next election campaign. But believe me, before we reach the next election, we'll be talking about that. Anyway, let's talk a bit about this. Allan, if I said circular economy to you, what would that mean?
So the circular economy, David, it's all about how businesses can be more sustainable, work with other businesses in the community. A lot of it is the opportunities for the local businesses and other waste producing organizations in the town, not just businesses, of course, to help reduce and divert the waste in the area that they create and find collaborative waste solutions. It's not one of those things where one business can take all of the effort by themselves. You can't put it all on your shoulders. It's got to be a team effort. So our awesome sustainability department, Jeff Fletcher and Nick Cloette, they've been working very hard. They've got a waste solutions consultant they're working with as well, and we're happy to host our first circular economy workshop next Tuesday on March 5th. So we're hosting this circular economy workshop, and the purpose of the event is to engage those local stakeholders, the businesses in the area that are already on the forefront of the green economy and doing things to be a little more reusable, recyclable, things like that, and kind of collaborate on these solutions for the circular economy. So Jeff and Nick, they did an amazing job putting together the TBM future story, and that's kind of the town's sustainability plan and the goals and the action items that they've set out for us to accomplish. So the circular economy will help support that plan. It's also what's happening in the town, including challenges and opportunities, because of course, while it's exciting to talk about all these great things it can do, there are going to be some challenges, maybe some costs as well. And for the most part, businesses that have adopted these green things have realized almost all of the savings that it costs to implement these things. They've kind of earned them back through the savings. So that's very exciting stuff. And I know Jeff and Nick will speak to that as well. And it's just how we can work together to advance this circular economy and the next steps and milestones related to the project. So this is kind of the kicking off point. And I know they've done a great job speaking to some of the pioneers and champions in the community already of, okay, what's worked for you so far? Of course, it is a rural community. So to kind of do that okay, what can we do within 20 miles, 30 miles to keep everything in-house here? So it's interesting to see what they've been able to accomplish so far. But I think these next steps are going to accomplish a lot more and kind of get everyone working together, because once you realize, okay, I'm not in this alone, there's help from other businesses, there's help from other community members, there's help from the municipality itself. I think we're going to be able to accomplish a lot. So if people are interested, the bluemountains.ca/circular economy will be able to find all their information on it.
One of the things
I think that,
sorry, go ahead, Andrea.
I was just going to say, it really is, it's the next step in terms of, Allan's mentioned our future story. Now, our future story was built by our community. It took years of it throughout the last term to, first of all, start with our sustainable path, which was done earlier in 2010, and then take that vision and say, how do we do actionable items? How do we have measurable goals that we can accomplish? And this is, in fact, one of the bold actions that came out of it, is that the community wanted to see more of how they can support businesses, but also just the community as a whole, how we can think carefully about what we're producing, and do we need to produce that something extra, or can we do it in a way that it gets repetitive use? The very first check mark in this bucket was the fact that we have a toy lending library at our library. So we're all familiar with borrowing books and not needing to purchase them, but at the same time, you could do that with things. So we have a library of things. So and that's, not only is that environmentally sound, but it's also good for social sustainability too. So parents who are on, a tight family budget, they don't need to purchase all the latest and greatest technology tools, toys. What they can do is, on a rotation basis, they can sign them out and make sure that their kids have the same exposure that others who might own that product have. So as Allan said, this is the next step in order to be able to support our business network and say, how do we help you make those kinds of decisions?
And just to chime in there, Mayor Matrosovs, one of the great things I saw the library doing this winter, not sure how often they got booked out this year, but the snowshoes. They have a snowshoe rental service as well, that you can go and book out the snowshoes for a weekend. So if you want to get out and try it, see if it's something you want to do. We have those nice groomed trails while we have snow, at least, that our great parks and trail staff maintain all winter long. The Georgian Trail is one of the jewels of our community, and it's a great opportunity to get out there and try on some snowshoeing, and the public library does an awesome job here at the Blue Mountains.
That's right. And they are in high demand, the snowshoes.
Well, probably the next 24 hours, they'll be in high demand too. Andrea, are you planning to check out a pair to get home tonight?
Yes. Well, yeah, that's it. My life is here in town at the moment. I still have several meetings to go, and then we will we'll make our way back up home to the top of the mountain.
Well, one of the things that I noticed in reviewing your minutes recently, and this has what relates to the circular economy, is that you're engaged in a dump cleanup study in Thornbury, and that's kind of a putting to land to use. That would not normally be thought of. Is that part of that circular economy thinking, Allan? Like to use municipal lands that you have for alternate purposes?
Part of the workshop series that the sustainability department is doing is the recommendations may assist the town in managing the waste diversion and the landfill services. So it's kind of a holistic, fulsome approach to everything. We're not just putting things into silos here, silos there. In a circular economy, everything has got to be connected for it to work properly. So I think this big look at the landfill and what they're doing there will be part of this research process, and it could go a long way.
And there's also a certain stewardship as well. David, you might have been scanning some minutes referring to the former landfill site, which is a piece of property that we own. And in that particular case, the town has always owned it. It was decades ago. It was used as a landfill site. So what we've been doing along the way is we've been doing environmentally responsible testing to make sure that we know exactly what we have there, what needs to be done in order to make sure that we're containing the kind of impact that it can have environmentally, but also to prep that land, which happens to be very, it's a brownfield site. It's right within the bounds of the town of Thornbury, and what we might be able to do with that property later and for community benefit. So that's part of it as well. And also, working very carefully with the Conservation Authority because we have a river running right through it. So that's something that we're taking on from a past history, and as well as what Allan's mentioned, what we do with our current landfill site, how do we minimize the need for it, and what do we do responsibly in terms of diversion?
Yes, to be clear, I was referring to the old land dump site in Thornbury there, not your current one, but your old one. I think that closed in the 1960s or 70s or something. It's
that's right.
Yeah.
I still keep thinking that that's just decades ago, but I guess now just sensing my date of birth that we're actually talking a half century at this point.
Well, I would say, and that's exactly the way I think sometimes. My golly, that was 50 years ago or 60 years ago or whatever. And yeah, I remember what I was doing at that time. I don't want to go back. But yeah, one of the things, Ellen, that is a part of the circular economy, of course, is the recycling program. And that's undergoing some massive changes in the province at the provincial level. Do either of you want to comment on where that is with respect to the town of Blue Mountains?
Yeah, well, what I can say is if it makes your head spin on how this is all going to shift across the province, you're not alone, because I have attended so many seminars at various conferences to hear about the updates of that. But essentially what it is making sure that producers are responsible for the kind of waste that it's being produced. So if somebody's manufacturing something and putting it in a giant piece of plastic because it looks best on a shelf that way, and that's the way they want to sell it, they better have a plan about how they're going to make sure that actual product gets recycled appropriately, and maybe make some different choices. If you go to Europe, the displays in a store are much different than they are here. So, that it's that kind of provincial effort that we have to make. Now, in our particular case here in the town of Blue Mountains, we continue with the services that we already have because we have a contract that we are seeing to its end. And then we will need to make some choices on how we jump in and convert. I know other municipalities across the county are a little further ahead on that because they had to make choices earlier according to when their services ended.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that every municipality will be making choices. Some have, some haven't, some are a little closer. But yeah, it's something for every municipality to watch. Absolutely. And who knows, maybe eventually there'll be something at the upper tier. But hey, you want to get a discussion started in Grey County? Just talk about waste management at the upper tier county level. No, not going to go there. Not today. Not today. Let's shift the focus a little bit and talk about your volunteer recognition event that's coming up.
Mm-hmm. So I can start with that and then Allan can jump in. So we do have an annual tradition where we do ask for nominations to come forward of people in a variety of categories, youth category, or I'll let Allan go down through that list, but various different. So it's not just everybody all in one bucket. But what we do then is we strike up a subcommittee that will make decisions, and we'll have some council members appointed to that, as well as some public members to help go through all of the nominations and make that selection. Then during the volunteer week, since we have volunteer week of right across Canada, we always choose that as our time frame on when we make those presentations. So we invite all the nominees along with their families and along with members of the community for two reasons. One is to recognize the individuals that have achieved these awards, but the other is to make sure that event is the opportunity to say thank you to all the volunteers across the community organizations that we have here in the Blue Mountains. So we send that invitation out to all the organizations and say, please run down your list of your volunteers, invite them for this celebration together, because each and every person's making that contribution, whether or not they're up at the front receiving the actual award or not.
And it's a funny event to hold because we know that none of these volunteers do it to get this recognition, but they deserve it. They put all this work on their backs year round. They do all these amazing things for the community without expecting to thank you, but we think they deserve this appreciation. So it's kind of our way of giving back. And yeah, we do have 7 categories. So there's the arts and culture, sustainability, heritage, sports and recreation, good neighbor, the Blue Mountains Community Builder, and that's the above 26 and below 26 to get the youth vote in there as well. and the Outstanding Community Group Award too. So if you do know somebody in the Blue Mountains that's doing an amazing job, we would love to have you nominate them. They can head to bluemountains.ca/volunteer awards. Nominations are being accepted until March 6th. So that's Wednesday, March 6th at the end of at midnight. We'll accept them all the way up until then. So we'd love to get people out there. And then, of course, the actual ceremony is taking place on Wednesday, April 17th, as Mayor Matrosovs said, right smack dab in the middle of volunteer recognition week across the country. And one of the great things we do as well is we offer the volunteer organizations a booth. It's kind of a volunteer fair as well. And if people are interested in the community, as I've said before, Blue Mountains, it's booming up here. A lot of new people coming to the community. A lot of people wondering, hey, how can I get involved here? This is your perfect opportunity to get out there. You see all these different organizations that come to the town, that do things in the town already. Okay, this is something I can volunteer at. This is something I'm interested in. Okay, this is a group that helps teach people how to ski. This is a group that helps people with Beaver Valley Outreach. They do amazing work. The Legion, the Lions, the Rotary. There's so many. I apologize to all the ones I have left out because there's just so many to name. I don't want to exclude anybody, but if you want to come see them all, you have your opportunity on Wednesday, April 17th to get out here to our volunteer fair and recognition award ceremony.
And I will say that kind of event is absolutely gold for a volunteer organization, for an organization, community organization that depends on volunteers. I'm a member of a couple of volunteer organizations. And yeah, that we've recruited new members from just a simple booth at a public event. So and you make, I really appreciate the point, Allan, you made that we have a lot of people moving in. And perhaps town of Blue Mountains is ahead of the rest of Grey County, but I continue to be astonished at the number of people who are moving in. And it's I think of one case I knew recently where grandma moved into a part of Grey County, and within a year there were the grandchildren. Mom and dad and the grandchildren are all relocated to another part of Grey County. So
absolutely. And the best way to get involved with your new community is through one of these community groups. It's not just the volunteering, it's the social aspect as well. It's getting to know everybody and getting to know the lay of the land. And we think it's an awesome opportunity. A lot of what we've seen is a lot of people who had a second home in the Blue Mountains have made it their primary home up here. But there are a lot of people that have come up here for the first time and made this their home without having a second home here before. And of course, as we're always saying, everyone's welcome. And if you're one of those people who wants to volunteer as well, you're doubly welcome to the town. We'll wave you in with arms wide open.
Sure. And because people are bringing, when they come into the area, as well as if they've been here all along, but also when they come as somebody new, they're bringing a new skill set with them. They've got different kinds of backgrounds, different kinds of professional backgrounds that lend themselves very well to different volunteer roles. So it is, as Allan said, it's an excellent way to get to know your community neighbors by working on a cause that you both believe in, and it's an excellent way to bridge that gap. It has been a challenging time for volunteer organizations because COVID really, it was always a challenge. And I know from the studies that I did in my graduate work, that there's definitely been a shift in how one volunteers, because people are much less inclined these days to have a regular commitment like serving on a board. But if you present a project and say, here's something that we're doing, it starts on this date, it finishes on this date. Family volunteering is also another one that parents are looking for ways, or grandparents are looking for ways that they can involve their younger members of the family into what community services like. So it's a good chance to come to a fair like that to see if there's a good match. And COVID really did make it difficult for volunteer organizations. They lost a lot of dedicated volunteers who at that point just said, I can't come back now because I'm older, or because my life commitments are different now. So this is why we want to support them in this event.
Well, that's great. Well, guess what? We're going to have to take a break because my earphone is telling me it's time to take a break. So friends, I'm David Shearman, and this is Politically Speaking. We'll be right back.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Rogers TV.
I was born and raised in Musqueam First Nation territory by my mother, who spoke Hunkaminam to me. As a child, I ceased using my mother tongue, as to use any language other than English was considered not being Canadian, so I was told. The old people came to me in a dream and reminded me of who I am and where I come from. I have reawakened. My roots are strong, and I'm no longer a silent speaker. My language tells me where I'm from. It defines me and guides me to teach others to learn and understand our culture and traditions. A gift for those in the present and the unborn generations. What was lost is found. What was asleep has awakened. My blood is here, and I am complete. I have returned home.
Hi, and welcome back to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guests today are Mayor Andrea Matrosovs, who is the mayor of the town of Blue Mountains, and Allan Gibbons, who is responsible for economic development, and I'm sure wears a whole bunch of other hats if he's a typical municipal staff person that I happen to know or know of. So welcome back to the both of you. Now let's move on to a couple of other things. Allan, you've got intake for your CIP grants. What does CIP stand for?
CIP is our Community Improvement Plan. So the Community Improvement Plan is a way to help leverage private investment using some of the town's money. So we have two main streams for our Community Improvement Plan. We have the Housing Within Reach program, and then we have the town-wide revitalization program as well. So the Housing Within Reach, it's a stream we really like to focus on. We're not unique in the Blue Mountains struggling with housing. I think it's an issue affecting everyone across the province. But I'd like to say we're a little ahead of the game by having this in our Community Improvement Plan. We've had it in there for a couple years now, and it's just trying to encourage people who've maybe been thinking, oh, I'd like to make an accessory unit, or I'd like to have a long-term rental unit in my house. Like, let's have another unit in here. Let's give somebody else another place to live. And how can the town help me do this? So through the Community Improvement Plan, we actually have some funds available to people who are interested in doing one of these things, having the accessory dwelling unit, building attainable housing. Items like that are available through that Housing Within Reach stream. And the town-wide revitalization program, a lot of it's beautification. There's signs, like if you want to upgrade your sign frontage according to the sign bylaw, of course, just helping the facades, and then just other urban improvement projects across the town. Lots of opportunities there. So the intake is planned to be open in March. So be on the lookout for that. And we were incredibly successful last year. I believe we had about $200,000 set aside for the Community Improvement Plan through the town budget. And through that $200,000, we leveraged over $2 million of private investment that went into our community last year through this Community Improvement Plan. So we're very happy with how it worked out last year, and we're very excited to see what kind of intake we get for 2024.
Because as Allan said, there has to be that commitment, from the applicant as well. So it's not just a check that's being handed over from the town. You have to put up what your portion of it, and we're able to. Maybe sometimes the extra bit that we can offer is enough to make that project viable for you.
How many grants were made last year?
I believe we had over a dozen through the different streams. So I don't have an exact number it's not quite in the planning department, and our other great staff here in communications help run that program. So I don't have the exact numbers, but I believe over a dozen went into it last year, and some of them were smaller scale projects. Oh yeah, I want to upgrade my facade, make the front of my store look a little nicer in the downtown area, which of course is a benefit to all those businesses downtown. And some were bigger items to help accessibility or add those additional dwelling units.
That's
Sure.
the fundamental, the thread that's in common with those two buckets is that it's something that's going to be benefiting the community. So it's not just because you want your storefront to look nicer, it's recognizing the value that when you do that and you put up your own dollars to invest, we can help you with that, because that will then in turn make it that much more of an attractive area for people to come and keep our local economy going. So same thing with the housing as well, that if you're willing to put in your part, you can get some assistance from the town, because anytime we can bring in any kind of attainable housing units into the area, that is going to benefit the whole community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's an opportunity for citizens to, like you say, leverage town money.
Absolutely, yes. And the key thing is it is leveraging town money. So to apply for the program, we ask people to provide quotes from multiple sources as well. So they kind of say, okay, this is how much we anticipate the program is going to cost. And then we look at it all and say, okay, this is how much you're approved for. And then they don't receive a single dollar until the program is fully stamped and approved and completed. So we're not just throwing money out there and having people take it and running away with it. No, like it's a very well administrated program, and we've seen a lot of success with it already. And we're hoping to see more of that success this year. And we're thinking, yeah, people are going to see what their neighbors did with the money and how they were able to kind of give that little extra boost to get things over the finish line. Because as we know these days, inflation's taken a bite out of a lot of people's budgets and might not be feasible 100% yourself these days. But if our little help over the finish line can help people out, we're happy to do it.
What's the source of the funding? Is this provincial money that you are flowing through, or is it from what's the source?
Yeah, this is a local funding initiative.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what we can do. So we have various different avenues in which we can collect that money and have it in the fund. And we didn't dispense it all last year. So the 200,000 was just a start, but we did get some assistance from Grey County as well. They were a partner in that too.
Yeah. So it's from a number of sources, but it comes through the town. Great. Well, Andrea, you are hosting, or at least Collingwood is hosting, a major conference in this coming year. Tell us a bit about that.
Oh, I think not Collingwood, but I think you are, if you're referring to the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative regional event. No, we are the hosts.
All right, you're the host. Sorry, my notes said Collingwood, so I was mishearing something.
That's right. Although I am looking forward to welcoming Mayor Hamlin to come and join us, as the other mayors from all around South Georgian Bay. So this goes, the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative is an organization. It's a binational organization. So our American neighbors as well as ourselves, that is representing right now 230 mayors are all part of that organization, to talk about how we can work together in terms of the environmental impacts on our Great Lakes, but also the economy, the blue economy, how our Great Lakes are tied into so much of what we do. And so we continue to work that way. That was a tradition that was started with the former mayor, David Miller of Toronto, and got together with the former mayor of Chicago and said, look, as we say, the fish don't have passports. They, the waters we share, this is one giant watershed that we share together. So what happens south of the border or north of the border, we have to coordinate better. And that's how it was started. And here regionally, locally, I can tell you some of the early mayor names that you might remember, Mayor Terry Geddes of Collingwood, Mayor Ellen Anderson here of the Blue Mountains. They were right at the beginning seeing the value of that. And Owen Sound has been a long time member as well. And we have some members that are, we have county members as well. So Grey County is a member, as is Simcoe County. So any of the municipalities that belong to that county are therefore part of the organization, although we have individual memberships. So there is, because Ontario has so many members, I co-lead this particular region of Grey County, Simcoe County, and the rest of Georgian Bay. So my co-leader of this particular group is Mayor is the Reeve Liverance, Bert Liverance of the Archipelago, further up on the shore of Georgian Bay. And what we do is we try to make sure that what is significant on a national level also also has significance on a local level too. So with that in mind, I am pleased to say that I put our name out there and said, look, we should do some smaller events rather than just the annual event, which last year was in Chicago and this year is in Montreal, but to get municipalities together to talk about commonalities between our watershed stewardship. And they took me up on it. And we are going to be having people not just mayors from South Georgian Bay, but all from right across Ontario are showing an interest in coming together to be able to talk about that. And representation from, there'll be representation from all of the major political parties at the federal level, because we do work at the federal level. But you're right, it's all happening right here in our town hall.
When I think about it, I just realized that Ontario is the North Shore of the Great Lakes. You know, you may have goodness knows how many states that are bordering on the Great Lakes in the U.S., but there's just one province, and
Yes.
quite a number of municipalities that border on the Great Lakes. And you know, if you really want to push it, we share the same lake as Chicago.
Yes, exactly.
Because Huron and Michigan are on the same water level.
That's right. The same water level. And what we also say too, I mean, you know, what happens up here, what we do up here in South Georgian Bay is going to have an effect on Montreal, because it's the same water that's going to start here and it's going to end up going out through the seaway. So that's the reason why we need to continue that dialogue together. And you know, I'm an advocate for stewardship at a watershed level. That's what our conservation authorities do here in Ontario. Down in the States, they don't have the same kind of conservation authority network, and over in Quebec, we're the envy of other places across Canada and North America, because we do look beyond the political boundaries and we say, no, what's more important is what happens at the top of a watershed has an effect at the bottom of the watershed too. And this is really what this initiative is doing on an uber scale.
And Mayor Matrosovs has been a great champion of the rural municipalities getting that stage with the big players. Like she said, these national or the annual events happening in Montreal, in Chicago. Yeah, those are big major players in the international game. But it's nice to get the powers, the federal people down to the Blue Mountains, getting them to see, okay, this is the rural, this is firsthand, this is what's happening, and these municipalities have just as much impact on the watershed and just as much interest and stakes held in that water that we all share. So she's been a great champion of us on an international scale. So hope we keep that great work up.
Yeah, and it's you know, and you're right. The cities have, you know, they have a limited amount of shoreline. They might be doing big things. They might have a port. They might have environmental aspects that they have to consider in terms of their industry. But we have 21 kilometers of shoreline, and we have a tourism industry that is vital, and that we absolutely need a pristine Georgian Bay in order to make that work. So you're right. Thanks, Allan, for pointing that out. Although it's called the Cities Initiative, it is any municipality that is within. It doesn't even have to be shoreline, but that's within the watershed of the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence, needs to be an equal voice there to say, you know, this is the impact that we can provide, and also this is the considerations that we need to consider for smaller municipalities too.
Be sure. Now, the dates again.
Well, that's going to be at the end of March. So that's March 28th. And it is an invitation only event, because it is in order to be able to get our member mayors together, but also some municipalities who have mayors coming who have not actually individually joined the organization. So it's a chance for them to find out more and consider whether or not they want to join. But we will be sharing the information that is discussed at that particular time. The Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative is always excellent of providing good documentation on report cards. You know, here's what we've done. We provide the advocacy, you know, the way that the Federation of Canadian Municipalities talks at the national level on behalf of the local organizations. That's what we can do together. That's why I've been to a couple of events in Ottawa, for example, where, you know, we did the climate adaptation summit, and we would go as member mayors to all the different parties and speak to all of the different MPs that could take time with us and explain the issues that we have and how we can work together on the local and national level to achieve the same end.
Sure. Well, it sounds like a very interesting and exciting event. And hey, next time we get together, You can give us a report card.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about or ask you about is, and this is, please, I'm an equal opportunity asker in terms of this question. Roma, which was at the end of January, and we're now a month later as we're recording this. But what did you go to Roma expecting? What did you find?
Okay, well, I guess I better take that one because Allan didn't have a chance to participate, but our CAO Everett was there. Sean Everett was there. And one of the major, and just for those following along, ROMA stands for the Rural Ontario Municipal Association. So it's a smaller, well, it's a big conference, but it's a smaller group of municipalities of Ontario that have a rural component to them. That said, Burlington will be there because they have a rural aspect. So it's not just small towns. We have another organization for that. And one of the reasons that we put a lot of effort into attending this one is because there are delegations that can be made. So municipalities and counties are able to make a delegation to a ministry about a particular topic and be able to get some face time. And hopefully the goal on those is, because you have to imagine they're sitting there listening to 15-minute presentations all day long for days on end. What you're really hoping for is that you get the dog ear at the top of the corner where they go, this one merits some follow-up. And one of the things that I always take as a tactic when I do those presentations, we'll have whoever's attending from council will be there with us. It's a very tight timeline, so I'll do part of the presentation, but it's always important for me that CAO Everett speaks as well, because really what happens after that delegation is it's staff to staff. So the minister will say, please, follow up with X, Y, and Z projects going on in these municipalities. And the person who will be following up on that is our CAO. So I think it's really important that we establish that relationship. So at Roma, to answer your question, I think it was 6 different delegations I was part of, whether or not they were, I attended 2 for Grey County, but also the Grey Highlands invited the CAO and myself to attend their delegation when it came to things like the Beaver Valley tourism, but also with the safe roads. They were campaigning for the Vision Zero concept of taking it up a notch in terms of road safety. And they asked us to participate in that one as well. And then we had our own delegations.
What were the issues you were specifically looking for from Town of Blue Mountains?
Well, one of them was infrastructure. We visited with the Ministry of Infrastructure to be able to say, what we really believe in, and it's something that's happening here in South Georgian Bay already. We really believe in the concept that we all need to provide the services. So why not look on a regional scale first and see if there's a way that we can solve those problems together? As we know, we don't have enough time to get into the topic, but Collingwood and Clearview and New Tecumseh and ourselves are involved in what the future is in terms of water delivery in particular of those. And really the message that we provided, the Town of Blue Mountains provided to the Minister of Infrastructure is make that a mandatory component. Before municipalities come forward and say they would like partnership dollars to extend their infrastructure services, make it a checklist that the first thing you do is you think about how you can do this on a regional scale. And I don't mean necessarily that one municipality takes the lead and becomes that, and then just brings in the others, but more on an actual equal voice. Say, there are 6 municipalities who are ready to solve this problem together. We can save a lot of money that way. Even if the individual projects have to happen, just even sharing, making sure that if your municipality and my municipality are doing similar work, that maybe we're making sure that the teams that come there to do the construction are sharing their time between the two. It doesn't necessarily have to be one giant regional facility or something. It could just be smaller projects working in tandem. And we really appealed. That's just one example with the time that we have.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because when I interviewed Rick Byers, who's our MPP, he was deeply appreciative of both the time and the depth of conversation that was going on, because you got 15 minutes for your elevator speech. That's it.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And he was quite impressed with the and he not only said it on the ones in our region in his writing, but also in a number of others, he said. So it's always interesting to see and hear what you were looking for, because this and the AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, which is another conference that comes up in August, and I think it's in Ottawa this year.
Yeah, and that's another big one for delegations.
That's the other big one, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's half a year away, because issues that have come up in between, you don't have to wait a full year before you go back and pursue it. And yes, and I highly agree with MPP Byers, because of course we have a different MPP. Ours is Brian Saunderson, because we're in a different riding. And that, again, the delegations are the opportunity to be able to say, look, we're here working together. It doesn't matter where that boundary is. We just want to be able to solve this. And here's an idea. So I've sat in on delegations, or I've presented with delegations where either MPP is there present.
Yeah. And not to speak out of turn here, Mayor. Oh, sorry, David.
Go ahead.
I know another thing that was highlighted. I got to help with some of the preparation for the Roma conference. Didn't get to go enjoy myself down there. Maybe for the best. But the Campus of Care project that the town's undertaking right now was a big subject down there as well, and lessons learned, and a lot of it was kind of the challenges that the town has faced in going through the project, also the lessons we've learned and how they can be better adapted to the rest of the province, because long-term care housing, workforce housing, all of these issues are facing the entire province. And we've been kind of front of the line on getting this Campus of Care project off the ground, and some more work's going to be completed this year on it. And we just kind of want to lay out the blueprint for other communities looking to see how can we support our aging workforce, how can we support our aging population. So the fact that the mayor and our delegations were able to get down there and speak to this, to the Ministry of Long-Term Care, to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and kind of say, okay, this is what worked, this is what didn't work, this is what you can do to make it easier for other municipalities in the future to provide this aging in place solution that every municipality is looking for. I think the town of the Blue Mountains has done a great job of being on the forefront of that and kind of leading the way and showing the path forward.
And that was definitely the message that we brought to them is here's our update. Here's where we are. It's a big celebration that we're bringing 160 long-term care facility beds here to the Blue Mountains, but also that we're looking ahead to how do we provide the attainable housing for the equal number of healthcare providers that need to be there. So, and it is a model that is workable. And that was our offer, is to say to the province, look, because we were the home of the first CHIA, for example, and that's what the Campus of Care was, the first the housing accelerator project that was granted by the province for that, to be able to say, look, let other municipalities, learn from what we've learned along the process, so that we can help make things happen faster and for the benefit of communities right across the province. It's always really important to me that, I highly advocate for continuing municipal politics on a nonpartisan scale, like the municipal politics here in Canada, in Ontario at the moment. Well, Quebec is a little bit different, but it is without parties, and it's our job. It's my job as mayor to work with whomever's in power at the provincial and at the federal level, because the idea is how can we best benefit our community here at home, and how can our community here at home make a contribution on a wider scale. Sure.
That is one of the unique parts of our Canadian political landscape, that municipal politics are non-partisan, that there's no party affiliations. I mean, people always have party connections, and I think that's a given. But in terms of formal party affiliations, nope. Not in most provinces. And Quebec has got, like you say, has got a very interesting and unique structure. But I was going to say too that one of the things that Rick Byers said, which I found quite interesting, is that he found it really helpful to see who was sitting with the minister, because that way he knew who he could follow up with on a project. So it's really there's more than one way to skin this cat, excuse the metaphor, but there's more than one way to get things done, and that's one of the ways that we get things done. And that's one of the things that, dare I say it, Andrea, you get paid the big bucks to do.
Yeah, well, hardly.
Right.
But that is the reason that you get up in the morning. That is the reason in this particular role that when, there's all sorts of challenges, lots of criticism out there, but you get up the next day and you show up because you know that you can move the needle and make a difference somehow in your community. And this is one example of how we need to keep that constant communication with the other levels of government to say, how do we do this together? Because individually, we're not going to accomplish as much.
That's very true. That's very, very true. And Allan, it's your job to make her sound good. Right?
She does that all herself. Don't worry, David. She doesn't need too much help with that. So
I get lots of support from Allan and his department.
I was going to say that's one of the roles of a communications person in an economic development is to make sure that the information gets out there and gets out to you as well. But so we got less than 2 minutes left. What's going to be happening in the next month in Town of Blue Mountains? Allan, don't tell me you're speechless.
Oh, I thought the mayor was going to hop on there, but no. Just the exciting things like we got the International Women's Day. Hopefully we're going to have some snow to extend this ski season a little bit while longer for all of our ski clubs. That's what I'm hoping for. I've only been out a couple times this year. I'd love to be out there a couple more times before the end. But then other than that, the circular economy workshop, lots of stuff going on there. The big B word, the budget coming up in Town of the Blue Mountains as well, public meeting. We are all about transparency. We're all about public communication here. We want to have your voice heard. We want to hear your public comments at our meetings. You can write your comments in, you can email them and have them read at the meeting. So lots going on, lots of opportunities to make your voice heard in the Blue Mountains, and we're fully supportive of it, and we love to hear from our residents.
Mm-hmm. And our budget page on our website will provide you all those avenues of how you can contribute. So don't worry if you feel that you can't make a meeting or if for whatever reason you can't be there virtually. You can continue with the written submissions as well. We certainly do want to hear from everyone. And
that will be one of the topics we're going to talk about the next time we get together. Mm-hmm. So thank you both. Thank you, Allan Gibbons, and Mayor Andrea Matrosovs. It's been great to have you on Politically Speaking, and thank you, friends, for being a part of Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. We'll talk again.
Excellent. Look forward to it.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Hi, I'm Tiffany James, the host of Her Story. Join us on Rogers TV as I interview various women in our community on how they found success in their own way.
Man, is there a lot of pressure on this young fighter here tonight.
Fighting is life.
This is my belt. I earned this in blood, paid in full. This is mine.
Everyone gets knocked down, but fighters get back up.
You cannot break me, I promise you.